Last week I did some internet trawling about how and where Gen Z communicate, which had some interesting moments. It prompted me to make this short video to tell you a little more about how young people actually communicate. I'm working based on my own experience and some amazing research done by National Youth Trends, who worked with 1,803 young people to bring you this year's Institutions of the Future report. If you want to know more about anything I talk about today, you can find some amazing stuff in the reports at beatfreeksyouthtrends.com. Now, in case you were wondering about my credentials, I'm a 19-year-old member of Gen Z currently studying at Birmingham City University. Of course, a question on all your minds is going to be, am I going to randomly switch between saying Gen Z and Gen Z? Yes I am. It hurts me as much as it hurts you. A point I saw brought up a lot was the types of social media that Gen Z use. One site I found told me that Gen Z, quote, almost exclusively use TikTok and Snapchat, which instantly started my nonsense radar buzzing. National Youth Trends recently did some research which told us that only 3% of young people primarily use TikTok, and only 16% primarily use Snapchat. Meanwhile, 2/3 reported primarily using Instagram. However, I can agree with the same site's assertion that young people use social media for meaningful conversations, making connections, and as a regular news source, which lines up with our research. Personally, I only learned about the Ever Given on Tumblr, which meant I didn't believe it for some time afterwards. If you're looking to get a message out to Gen Z, Twitter and Instagram will serve you just as well, if not better than the newer platforms. But where Gen Z communicate is only part of the story. How we talk and what we talk about are huge questions, both of which the web pages I found thought they had the answers to, and both of which National Youth Trends have the answers to. I doubt it's controversial to suggest that Gen Z are extremely passionate about the issues affecting the world around them. From climate change to racism, the serious issues of the day are what fill the feeds of young people around the world. Most young people we work with told us that they have been worried about social issues since their mid-teens, and 88% revealed that their main concern was to make change in society, rather than for any reasons of peer pressure or personal gain. When dealing with young people, it's important for any company to point out their position on real social issues. Both the information I found and our research agree that young people want brands to be transparent about what they actually stand for. National Youth Trends research found that the vast majority of young people pay close attention to brand ethics when shopping, and around 2/3 said they would make sure to do further research to make sure that brands were really following up on their promises. Seriously, if you're not being honest, Gen Z will find you out. Something that may surprise many people who've heard the generally approved narrative is that Gen Z aren't just idealistic. Young people are very practically minded and really care about the security of their future. When researching for the Take the Temperature report, we found that one of the most common worries amongst young people has been the loss of income. They generally pointed out that their employer was not to blame and the health and well-being of others was a bigger issue, but they still worried deeply about their situation. Many more worried about their education and how they would fare later on if their education was affected. These practical concerns are at the heart of Gen Z's world at the moment, and brands might be advised to keep that in mind when trying to communicate with young people. More than these all-encompassing concerns, Gen Z is a generation which thinks very practically about the way they spend their money. When asked about their most important concern when making a purchase as part of our research for Institutions of the Future, nearly half of the young people we interviewed said that quality was at the top of their list. The stuff I found last week further suggested that when looking at an opportunity, young people really want to know what concrete difference it will make for them. This is certainly backed up by our experience. I'd like to finish with a few important points of my own about the kind of language you could benefit from using when talking to Gen Z. Number 1. A phrase one page I found last week kept using was vibe check. You may want to be taken seriously. You may want to appear cool. You may even want to appear like you're in touch with your audience. If any of these are true, I implore you, for the love of all that's holy, don't say vibe check if it's not something you say day to day. Even saying it now is sending a shiver up my spine. It's awful. The wider point is that it's not a good idea to use phrases you've seen somewhere and think it would be cool if you used them. Even if you're sure Gen Z are using them, you can always be sure what they mean. There might be some subtext or deeper understanding that you're not party to. It's generally not a good idea. Number 2, feel free to use a bit of hyperbole. These days everything's the best or the fastest or the most shocking. In a clickbait age, you've just got to lean into it. Superlatives and hyperbole aren't going to be a problem. Just be positive when not much else is in the world. Number 3, don't be stilted and formal. Feel free to just have a chat with your audience. One phrase which hugely stood out to me last week because of how hilarious it was is, they think like people themselves. Whatever they were trying to say, which I still haven't picked apart, the point it reminded me to pick up is that young people are people too. We're just normal people that you can talk to. So just talk normally. Number 4, be aware of localization. Certain places you'll find people talking completely differently, not just geographically, but amongst different communities, especially online, and things which work in one place or amongst one community will sound totally ridiculous elsewhere. It's hard to make it work all the time, and constant colloquialisms will seem forced, but just be aware of it. And number 5, speaking of things being forced, don't try too hard. Seriously, there's nothing more annoying than someone trying to seem cool when it sounds completely wrong in their voice. A page littered with emojis and phrases you've picked up online won't play in your favour. Honestly, just chill. Talk normally. It's not going to kill you. Anyway, that's probably all I've got to say. I hope this helps.